There comes a time in every soul's journey where you must decide, will you continue letting the same tired shadows steal your sunlight, or will you rise, fierce and unyielding, into your birthright of peace? This message is not for the timid, nor for those still addicted to people-pleasing. This is for the ones ready to reclaim their crown, to walk with holy defiance, and to make a single decision so rooted in self-respect that toxic spirits simply cannot touch you again. Now take a breath, let the wind carry away your fear, and listen close, child. This is how you make them vanish with dignity. Draw a line in the spirit, not with your hands, not with your voice, but with the quiet thunder of self-worth that rises from within. It is the invisible boundary etched not in sand, but in soul, the kind that does not waver when tested, the kind that does not seek approval to exist. It is a covenant between you and the sacred within you, a declaration that says, I am not your battlefield, I am not your scapegoat, I am not your emotional landfill. To draw this line is not to reject love, but to refine it. It is to recognize that anything masquerading as connection that costs your dignity is not love, but bondage. But you draw it the moment you stop explaining why your no is enough. You draw it when you stop justifying your exhaustion to people who refuse to honor your presence. You draw it by standing still while others dance in chaos, refusing to be moved by their firestorms. The line is drawn in your tone, your silence, your absence, your clarity, not in hostility, but in holiness. You do not shout to declare it, because those attuned to disrespect cannot hear decency anyway. You draw it once, from the marrow of your being, and everything that cannot honor your worth will either transform, retreat, or reveal its true nature. And still, you do not flinch, because the line you drew is not a threat, it is a threshold. It is the sacred perimeter of your becoming. It is the place where you protect your peace, not with barbed wire, but with unshakable knowing. It is where you choose healing over familiarity, truth over performance, self-respect over suffering. The line in the spirit is where the old you ends and the healed you begins. It is where you stop leaking your light into those who only come to dim it. It is not cruel, it is not arrogant, it is necessary, it is holy, it is yours. Do not explain your glow. Do not trim it down to make others comfortable. Do not offer footnotes for your radiance, nor apologetic smiles for the joy that spills out of you like sunlight through stained glass. Your glow is not a thing to be justified, dissected, or dimmed. It is not a side effect of chance, nor a thing bestowed only to be bartered. It is the culmination of your scars healed, your battles survived, your dreams watered in secret places where nobody clapped but the heavens themselves. That glow is a testimony, not a question, not a debate, not a permission slip. You were not made to fit into the shadows of someone else's insecurity. You were not born to shrink so others might feel tall. When your light begins to shine, truly shine, the world will offer you two things: applause from those ready to rise with you, and resistance from those who are not yet ready to confront their own dimming. You are not obligated to make your brilliance digestible for those who choose blindness. You are not responsible for coddling fragile egos that mistake confidence for arrogance. Your glow is not arrogance. It is evidence of resilience, of truth, of a spirit that has refused to die quietly. Let them whisper, let them guess, let them misunderstand. Do not bend yourself into a smaller shape so they can carry you easier. You were meant to be carried by spirit, not by consensus. Your glow came at a cost: nights of weeping, days of silence, and years of becoming when no one was watching. So no, do not explain it. Do not hand over the keys to a light they did not help kindle. Shine and shine unbothered. Let your presence disturb every room where self-betrayal has been normalized. Let your joy be disruptive. Let your peace be provocative. Let your glow speak for itself, for it carries the language of freedom, and you, beloved, are fluent in it. Silence is a mighty weapon, not the silence of fear or submission, but the silence forged in the fire of self-mastery. It is not the absence of voice, but the presence of power. Silence is what the wise wear like armor. It walks into the room before you do. It commands attention without raising its hand. And it teaches the unruly better than any shouted word ever could. There is a thunder in silence that shakes the foundation of those who seek chaos. It is the quiet refusal to engage in every invitation to war. It is the stillness that declares, "I am not yours to provoke." Silence does not mean you are unaware. It does not mean you are weak. It means you have measured the battlefield, understood the opponent, and chosen not to bleed for things unworthy of your energy. It is restraint, not retreat. It is dignity that does not beg to be understood. Silence allows fools to reveal themselves and gives space for clarity to rise like steam from a boiling truth. You do not need to argue with every lie, chase every rumor, or fix every misunderstanding. Sometimes silence does the speaking for you. Sometimes silence builds a sanctuary around your peace. In a world that confuses noise with meaning, silence is radical. It makes people nervous because it cannot be controlled or predicted. Toxic people thrive on reaction. They hunger for drama like wolves hunt the scent of blood. But when you offer them nothing, not anger, not justification, not pain, you starve them of their power. Your silence becomes a boundary they cannot cross. It becomes a mirror in which they must face their own distortion. And in that stillness, you remain sovereign, you remain whole, you remain unshaken, because you know that silence is not emptiness, it is elegance. It is not defeat, it is defiance clothed in grace. Step out of the circus, that wild spinning spectacle where every clown wants your attention, every ringmaster demands your submission, and every trick is a test of your peace. You do not belong there, juggling other people's chaos while your spirit quietly suffocates. You were never meant to dance to the music of madness or perform on command just to keep the noise from growing louder. That circus of drama, of petty games and small minds was built to keep you dizzy, distracted, and disoriented. But your soul was not made for tightropes and illusions. Your soul was made for stillness, for clarity, for the wide open spaces of truth. When you step out of the circus, you stop responding to every fire they set just to watch you burn. You stop apologizing for your boundaries, stop explaining your exits, stop auditioning for love in places where the script is written to make you small. You realize you do not have to sit in the front row of every argument. You do not have to clap for performances meant to manipulate. You do not have to keep showing up to the same exhausting show just because someone handed you a ticket. Step out, walk out, bow if you must, but do not look back. Let the tent collapse without your breath holding it up. To step out is to reclaim your seat at the table of sanity. It is to protect your energy like it is sacred soil, because it is. You do not water weeds with your attention. You do not feed chaos with your presence. When you remove yourself from the drama, you become free. You become dangerous in your peace. You become untouchable in your refusal to entertain foolishness. The clamor may still roar in the distance, but you no longer dance for it. You stand outside the noise, barefoot on your own ground, knowing the circus only survives when you sell your soul to its stage. Respect is not negotiable. It is the unshakable pillar upon which you build the temple of your dignity. It is not a courtesy you beg for, nor a currency you barter with, nor a favor to be earned through silence or suffering. It is the birthright of every soul who walks this earth with intention, with presence, with the unyielding clarity that says, I know who I am. When you allow yourself to believe that respect is something to be won through endurance or compromise to maintain harmony, you begin to make small funeral arrangements for pieces of yourself, one boundary at a time, one swallowed truth at a time, one forced smile at a time. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the soul rises up and declares, enough of shrinking so someone else can feel taller. Enough of laughing off disrespect to keep the peace that never truly existed. Enough of explaining, justifying, or softening your truth so it fits more comfortably inside someone else's fragile ego. That moment, that holy uprising, is when your spirit starts taking back the land it gave away. And it starts with a quiet but thunderous decision. My respect is not on the table, not today, not ever. To hold this truth in your bones is to walk differently. You move through rooms not with arrogance, but with certainty. You look people in the eye not with defiance, but with unwavering self-regard. You listen, but you do not bow to belittling tones. You engage, but you do not entertain the erosion of your worth. You become a mirror that reflects back to others the level of reverence you demand, not with noise, not with fury, but with unwavering stillness. Because respect doesn't always need to roar. Sometimes it is the quiet refusal to remain where it is absent. Sometimes it is the sacred silence of leaving without explanation. Sometimes it is the strength to say no, to say enough, to say I will not continue here. In a world that tries to condition you into believing that your value depends on pleasing others, resisting that lie is a radical act of self-love. You become untouchable not by how loud you speak, but by how deeply you know that your worth is not contingent on the approval of those who refuse to honor your soul. You don't demand respect from those unwilling to give it freely. You simply stop showing up in places that cannot hold the weight of who you are. Let your absence speak volumes, for there are silences that thunder louder than any protest, than any explanation, than any desperate plea to be seen, to be valued, to be treated with the reverence every soul deserves. There is a sacred strength in knowing when your presence has been mishandled, when your spirit has been overlooked, and choosing not to offer your light where it has been dimmed by carelessness or cruelty. This is not retreat. This is not weakness. This is the elegance of self-respect, stepping out of the room and taking every ounce of your worth with it. Too often we believe that we must stay, must explain, must fix what was broken by someone else's inability to cherish us. We stretch and bend ourselves into the shape of forgiveness when there has been no accountability. We speak and speak, hoping our truth might finally soften a hardened heart, but there is a power far greater than pleading. It is the hush of your footsteps as you walk away, the empty seat at the table, the unopened message, the quiet that follows your decision to no longer make yourself available to dishonor, to disregard, to spiritual erosion. Your absence is not a void, it is a mirror. It reflects to the world the cost of mishandling a heart that showed up in fullness. It becomes a sermon to those who thought your loyalty would outweigh your limits. It is the answer to every why they failed to ask while they still had the gift of your nearness. And when spoken with love, with calm, with grounded certainty, absence is a boundary more eloquent than any confrontation. Let them feel the weight of what it means to lose the presence of someone who loved without condition, who gave without keeping score, who stood with grace even when met with shadows. Let them sit with the echo of your laughter, the warmth of your support, the richness of your compassion, and realize that what once felt constant has now become memory. This is the way you teach the world how to treat you, not through noise, but through your refusal to remain where your soul cannot thrive. Not with bitterness, but with a noble silence that declares, I have reclaimed my peace, and I will not spend it where it is not honored. Guard your peace like treasure, because it is. In a world that will tug at your sleeve with gossip, try to sow doubt in your spirit with chaos, and call you cold simply because you didn't let their storms inside your sanctuary. Understand this: your peace is not negotiable. It is not up for debate, not a currency to be traded for temporary company, not a casualty in someone else's war. Your peace is holy. It is the still lake in your soul that reflects truth when everything else is noise. Protect it like you would your breath, for it is just as vital. Too often we are taught to be polite at the expense of our energy, to be available at the cost of our own stillness. But no amount of kindness should ever cost you your center. That sacred hush within, that space where you commune with your higher self, that clarity that rises when the world grows quiet, that is where your power lives. And every time you allow someone to disturb it, to track dirt through your inner temple with their drama, their dysfunction, their constant need for attention or control, you dim the light that was never meant to be shared so recklessly. To guard your peace means to know when to close your door without guilt, to turn off the noise without apology, to decline invitations, spoken and unspoken, into madness. It means cultivating a life that doesn't revolve around reaction, but rests in rhythm, ritual, and reason. It's not about being unbothered in a shallow sense. It's about being deeply rooted in yourself, so that even when the winds howl and the critics shout, you remain unmoved, unshaken, unbroken. Guarding your peace is not selfish. It is self-honoring. It is refusing to offer your serenity to people who do not know how to hold it. It is recognizing that every moment you remain in environments that agitate your spirit, you teach your heart that chaos is acceptable, and it is not. It never was. You must choose your peace like it is water in the desert, because when you learn to protect that divine calm, your clarity sharpens, your confidence strengthens, and your spirit becomes a place where only love, truth, and purpose are allowed to dwell. Be clear, not cruel, for there is a difference, a holy difference, between the sound of truth and the sting of harm. In a world where voices clash and egos rise louder than wisdom, let your words be firm, yet full of grace. Let them land like stones of clarity, not daggers of disdain. Clarity is an act of love, first to yourself and then to others. When you choose to speak truthfully, without the venom of bitterness or the noise of blame, you honor both your boundaries and your soul. You give your spirit the dignity of standing tall without stepping on anyone else's peace. Cruelty is often born of insecurity dressed in armor. It shouts because it's afraid. It wounds because it doesn't know how to hold its own pain. But clarity, oh clarity, she is different. She is calm, deliberate, unwavering. She walks into the room with her spine straight and her palms open. She says, "This is what I will allow, this is what I won't." And she says it once. She doesn't yell, she doesn't beg to be understood. She simply names her truth and lets the world adjust accordingly. That is strength. To be clear is to give yourself the permission to walk away without needing to be right. It is to say no without anger, to set a boundary without building a wall of hate. It is choosing not to poison your peace with sharp words, even when the hurt tries to pull them from your mouth. For every moment you remain clear, you remain in control, not of others, but of yourself. And that is the highest power of all. There will be those who try to twist your clarity into cruelty because they are used to people dressing up silence with people-pleasing or bending under the weight of false politeness. Let them misunderstand. Let them label your light harsh if they've only known darkness. Your task is not to soften your truth to make it easier to swallow. Your task is to deliver it with integrity, wrapped in self-respect, delivered with enough gentleness to be heard and enough steel to be honored. In doing so, you teach others not just how to treat you, but how to treat themselves. Release the need to fix others, ma'am, for that is not your divine assignment, and the soul you are trying to save may not even know it is drowning. There is a quiet kind of arrogance in believing we must be the healer of every wound, the patch for every crack, the sun in someone else's midnight. But beloved, you were not sent here to carry what does not belong to you. You were not anointed to rearrange another soul's destiny. There comes a sacred hour in every strong spirit's life when they must lay down the burden of other people's choices and let the fire of self-preservation burn away the rope of codependency. It is noble to care, yes, to uplift, to encourage, to extend the hand when it is needed, but you must know the difference between offering help and wearing yourself out as a human bandage. You cannot pour your wisdom into a vessel with no bottom. You cannot gift your light to someone determined to sit in shadows. And you must understand, no matter how mighty your love, it will never be enough to heal a person unwilling to do their own sacred work. That's not your failure, child. That's their calling to answer, not yours to drag. Fixing others becomes a way to avoid the hollowness we feel inside. It becomes a mask for our own discomfort with powerlessness. But you were not built to be broken by other people's storms. You were built to be steady in your own. And when you release that need, that heavy, invisible need to rescue, to fix, to mend, you begin to reclaim the space you were meant to fill. You begin to take the energy once spent on others' healing and invest it into your own growth, your own rest, your own rise. Let people walk their paths, even if it's rocky. Let them stumble, let them ache, let them wrestle with their own becoming. That is how they meet their mirror. That is how they gather their wisdom. And if they ever choose to reach for the light, let them know you are there, not as a savior, but as a witness to their courage. Until then, release them, release the guilt, release the obligation, and most importantly, release the illusion that you were ever supposed to hold their brokenness like it was your birthright. You are not the architect of another's transformation. You are only the keeper of your own wholeness. Choose elevation over entanglement. For life offers us a crossroads at every turn, where we must decide whether to rise above the noise or sink deeper into its chaos. To elevate is to claim your own sacred space, to lift your spirit beyond the tangled web of drama, resentment, and distraction that so often threatens to consume us. It is the courageous act of stepping back from the fray, refusing to be pulled into battles that do not serve your growth, and instead soaring toward the light of your highest self. Elevation is a quiet rebellion against the pettiness and poison that try to anchor us down. It is the wise soul's declaration that peace and progress matter more than proving a point or winning a fight. Entanglement, on the other hand, is the slow undoing of your spirit. It is the magnetic pull into the whirlpool of other people's anger, jealousy, and confusion, where every step forward feels like 2 steps back. It is to give away your power piece by piece, tangled in webs of blame and bitterness, caught in cycles that breed nothing but exhaustion and sorrow. When you choose entanglement, you are handing over your sovereignty to circumstances and to those who may never have your best interest at heart. You become a captive to the very energy you long to escape, a marionette dancing to the tune of others' chaos. But elevation, and oh, elevation, she is the song of freedom and the path of the wise. To elevate is to remember who you truly are, a spirit forged in resilience, a soul built for light, a being destined to rise. It is to choose calm over conflict, understanding over anger, and progress over paralysis. Elevation requires strength, for it means saying no to the distractions that seek to derail you, and yes to the quiet power of patience, perspective, and peace. It means surrounding yourself with those who uplift and gently releasing those who pull you down, not out of cruelty, but out of sacred self-love. In choosing elevation, you honor the rhythm of your own journey. You walk with intention, speaking your truth softly but firmly, holding your head high even when the winds blow fierce. You become the architect of your own destiny, building bridges rather than walls, crafting a life that reflects the fullness of your spirit. To elevate is to become a lighthouse in the storm, unwavering, steady, shining bright, a beacon not only for yourself, but for all those who seek a higher way.